This is Tom Clark at Unfurled TV. Today we're looking at another reason that people of goodwill need to join the walkaway movement and stop voting for the party that supports fascism. This article on CNN, it's a roundtable discussion, and it's just amazing that we're coming up to a midterm election here. And critics of Democrats and other globalists are getting censored en masse right before our eyes. The list just keeps on growing. We've got Gavin McInnes getting booted off Twitter with no explanation. I saw today that Stephen Molyneux is claiming that he is apparently getting false flagged for his content. We just had congressional hearings on this stuff. Last month, where Diamond and Silk testified about how they were censored. Ron Paul supporters have been censored. Republicans high up in the party are being shadow banned, etc. Now, I'm not a Republican, but if you're still voting Democrat, you need to start asking yourselves a few questions. What happens when political parties and corporations get together to take away freedom? I mean, in this case, we're talking specifically about freedom of speech, but what happens? What happens every time? Has there been one time in history that anybody knows? Does anybody know one time in history that this hasn't led to political persecutions, if not worse? Ask yourself this: which parties are supporting this unholy takeover of the social media public square? Is it the libertarians that are supporting that? Do you see any Republicans supporting that? What party is supporting people getting booted out of the public square? And the sad part of it is there's no legitimate reason for it. You know, I've done some computer programming in the past, and I'm telling you, it's a piece of cake. It'd be a piece of cake for all of these social media platforms with their professional programmers to be able to allow users to give users all sorts of tools to control what's in their own feeds. It'd be no problem at all. I'm sure that I'll make a thorough video on how to program this sort of thing into it in the future. But for right now, I mean, in most cases, if you don't like the provider, you can just block that content provider completely and he goes away. Twitter even has these lists if you're a member of the list, anybody that's banned by the list, you won't see in your feed. So there's tools already available, and they could be even more robust. So this is completely ridiculous. Anyway, I'm not going to cover the folks in the roundtable in this roundtable article here that are in support of free speech. I'm just going to cover the idiocy that jumps out at me, people that are against free speech. So let's dive in. First up, we have Ruth Ben-Ghiat. I guess that's how you say her name. Let's see if you can guess her party political affiliation here with all of these folks. She says, "The decision of Apple, Facebook, and YouTube to finally remove social media content associated with Alex Jones and his InfoWars propaganda machine for violations of their hate speech and harassment guidelines is overdue and worthy of applause. Jones and his team specialize in trying to discredit or deny anything that gets in the way of their paranoid worldview. Where the Sandy Hook massacre was faked, President Barack Obama was not born in America, former presidential candidate Hillary Clinton ran a sex trafficking operation, and Nazis and other fascists were actually the creators of a left-wing authoritarianism that now threatens America." There's no denying that some of what InfoWars and Alex Jones have reported is screwy, unconventional. That's for sure. But this last comment, that Nazis and other fascists were actually the creators of a left-wing authoritarianism that now threatens America. So said the left-wing authoritarian that supports the deplatforming of American citizens from the social media public square for the gall, for the sin of sharing a paranoid conspiracy theory. We'll allow CNN and MSNBC to run 24/7 their paranoid conspiracy theory regarding Trump collusion with Russia, conspiracy theory, on and on and on. We won't ban them, but we'll definitely ban somebody else that has conspiracy theories that paint bad pictures of left-wing politicians. Not only that, lady, have you ever watched a documentary on Netflix? I mean, 95% of them are all political hack jobs. Have you ever watched a Michael Moore production? Come on. Anyway, I guess according to Ruth Bain Giat, you're just being a paranoid conspiracy theorist to wonder if the social media platforms that impersoned Alex Jones and InfoWars within a 24-hour period did so as a coordinated effort to meddle in the midterm elections. We're just all paranoid for conspiracy theorist believers to wonder what in the hell is going on that Alex Jones, a conspiracy theorist, gets banned from all of these platforms. It's hilarious. She goes on. These actions by technology and social media giants simply remind us of the short path from an outfit like InfoWars to President Donald Trump's White House. Well, I have to wonder if you reported on the likes of Louis Farrakhan and other nut job conspiracy theorists visiting the White House during the Obama administration. Just wondering if you were outraged then. Just wondering if you're calling for the deplatforming of Louis Farrakhan and other radicals on the left side of the equation at this point in time? Just a question. The idea that leftist Nazis victimize the right infuses the histories and commentary peddled by White House darling and convicted felon, later pardoned by Trump, Dinesh D'Souza. Well, calling Dinesh a White House darling, yeah, that sounds like a typical so-called academic and respectable CNN contributor. This is par for the course. I mean, you can't get an honest debate with academia or CNN or MSNBC nowadays, can you? And the word peddle, well, if reporting that the Republican Party was a party of abolition, the party for civil rights, and the Democratic Party was the party of slavery, KKK, Jim Crow, and the kicking of low-income fathers out of the home through welfare bribery, if all of that is peddling, well, yeah, Dinesh, keep on peddling the truth, because people should know these things instead of falling for the propaganda churned out in our public schools. You know, I don't even say hold this against the Democratic Party at this time. Most of these things happened some time ago. So, you know, don't necessarily hold the modern Democratic Party to what was done in the past, but definitely expose that the public school system is feeding our children full of baloney and propaganda, K through 12, and college and university and grad school. And you might even consider some of it to be continuing education after graduate school. I mean, with the mainstream media and all of their lies and propaganda that they're peddling on the American citizenry. I mean, expose that stuff. His book, The Big Lie, distorts the work of many scholars. Well, if you're a liar, it should. Including me. Well, if you're a liar, he should. On Italian fascism to claim that Mussolini and Hitler were actually left-wingers. Well, they are under American standards. Granted, in Europe, left-wing means, I think, globalist, and right-wing means nationalist. That's my understanding of how it's viewed in Europe. But on the street in America, traditionally the left has had nothing to do with nationalism or globalism, neither the right or the left, actually. They have both agreed on nationalism, or they both agreed on globalism if they were progressive in either party. But anyway, in American politics, the left is associated with socialistic government control of the means of production, mainly through regulation and statutes. And the right is associated with small government and conserving the idea of American individualism. So yeah, to an American, Mussolini and Hitler were most definitely left-wing. They were definitely against the American style of individualism, and they were all for the state being all-powerful. Sorry, Professor, but you're either lying on purpose or lying by omission by not covering these differences between leftism and rightism between the continents. All to try and cleanse the right of any responsibility for violence. Donald Trump Jr. co-hosted the Washington, D.C. premiere of D'Souza fact-free film Death of a Nation. So what, Antifa is on the right? The guy that shot the Republican congressman when they were practicing baseball, he was on the right. Who else? I don't know who you're talking about. Are you talking about the mentally ill people that have participated in school shootings? Are you talking about the Islamists that killed a bunch of people at the gay bar in Florida, or the people that were going to the Christmas party in California? I mean, who are these right-wing killers, these right-wing violent people that you're talking about? I don't know, maybe Eisenhower because he helped win World War II. But oh my goodness, how ridiculous is your crime that you have uncovered here? The son of the President of the United States, a Republican, co-hosts a documentary that shows the darker side of the opposition party, a darker side which is true, by the way. And so I have to wonder also if your outrage meter has also pegged out whenever Michael Moore makes a documentary, or anybody of his kind, or was it pegged out when Bill Maher and Stephen Colbert and Samantha Bee, John Oliver, Jon Stewart, selectively clip out interviews and twist facts around and out lie with their left-leaning guess about conservatives and trying to always paint them in a bad light? Were you writing articles about all that poison that was filling the airwaves? I'm guessing no, but, let me know if I'm wrong. Skipping ahead. Jones may be partly silenced, but only a concentrated and bipartisan effort will stop a crusade against truth that's unparalleled in history and of the utmost gravity. The mainstream media are by far more effective crusaders against the truth, and they are by far more the enemy of the American people, compared to the likes of Alex Jones. The mainstream media has been whipping up dissent and discord and hatred towards the right for years and years and years, over and over again, unfounded. And that's where this violence is coming from. It's not coming from the right. It's directed at the right. And I'm happy to say that Americans are wising up and they're going to put a stop to your guys' bullshit. It's coming to an end. You guys are in your death throes now. You guys in the legacy media. Banning Jones, this was your last-ditch attempt to control the minds of the American people, and it's not going to work. Your control is coming to an end, thankfully. And this all just hastens it. Given the support it enjoys from the apex of power, those companies who don't step up to the plate now should re-examine their priorities. Let me explain that for you folks that don't understand the obscure language of authoritarianese. What she's saying, in other words, is if you are a company that supports fascism, then you need to step up and do what fascists always do. Well, at least she's being honest about the goals of the left, so there you have it. Look, to my friends that are on the left still, Democrats still, and are probably going to still vote Democrat, please don't. But if you're going to, look, I'm not talking about you. You are supporting a party that is doing all of these evil things to America. You are doing that, but I know that your heart isn't there. Your heart doesn't go there. But your party is controlled by these folks. You've got to wise up. Anyway, let's move on ahead to the next fascist. And by the way, I mean socialistic authoritarianism, those folks who believe that a free society is obsolete and it should be reorganized under a totalitarian one-party state, also known as the Democratic Party. Anyway, I digress. Next up, we have Rafia Zakaria. The stripping of InfoWars from Facebook, Apple, and other platforms is an important step in the recognition of nativist, nationalist, and white supremacist hate speech as a form of terrorism. Well, Miss Zakaria, I agree with you that you are fighting nativists, also known as American citizens, nationalists, also known as American citizens that love America and the freedoms protected by the Constitution. You do, in my opinion, I agree with you. You do indeed want American citizens to be erased from the face of the earth, or at least from being able to speak. But there's several things I don't agree with you on. I don't agree that you're fighting white supremacists, because I looked at the march, the Charlottesville march, and it seems like there's 20 guys that you need to conquer. Well, if there's 20 of the enemy left, much like the Star Wars Rebellion, it's over. And no one at InfoWars, to my knowledge, is any sort of racist. They don't support the alt-right, to the best of my knowledge. If I'm wrong, prove me wrong, but I don't see them advocating for a white ethno-state. If you're looking for racists, though, I can help you out. Go to MTV Decoded here on YouTube. Look at their channel. Hey, heck, look right there on look on the nightly news with CNN and MSNBC, and you'll see all the race baiters gathered in one place right there. And there's a hell of a lot more than 20 of them. And by the way, just so you know, speech opposing actual terrorism is not terrorism. Speech opposing authoritarians like yourself, that's not terrorism. Killing people for not following the tenets of any ideology, including Islam, including globalism, that's terrorism. In the aftermath of the decisions of various service providers to stop carrying InfoWars content, there are many who will say that this represents an unprecedented affront to free speech and First Amendment rights. As a Muslim American who has been seen the detestable anti-Muslim propaganda of InfoWars content replicated across the World Wide Web and popularized via Apple, Spotify, and others, I know nothing could be farther from the truth. The United States denies First Amendment protection to those sharing views involving support for or agreement with foreign terror organizations. In the case of Ali Shukra Aman, the Virginia teenager who was charged with providing material support for terrorism based on his tweets and a blog. Not only that, my lady, there was other things that happened in that case. A U.S. federal court declared that the First Amendment protections do not apply to those who are being charged under the Material Support for Terrorism statute. No, that's not what they found. They found something else, and it's under these set of circumstances, in that particular case, First Amendment protections did not apply. Anyway, I'm glad you pointed out this case. Anyone can go look at the plea deal. It's got a statement of facts with it. It's at justice.gov/OPA/file/477366/download. So let me lay it out for you, Ms. Zakaria. Just like two people conspiring to rob a bank, the fact that the robbers might use Twitter to hash out details how they're planning on committing crimes and how they're putting everything together, that doesn't excuse them from the conspiracy to commit a crime. You can't raise the free speech defense, because what you're doing is not only are you speaking, you're using speak not to state a political position or how you feel about this or how you feel about that, or what you think's going on in the world, or whether you think that somebody's lying to you, like the mainstream media or not. You're actually you're speaking to one another with the intent of committing a crime, with the conspiracy to commit a crime. If I was speaking to an individual and telling him to steal a van across the street so that we could rob the bank, that is being a conspirator to a crime. So I didn't steal the van. I just told the guy, go steal the van, go break the law so that we can break further laws. That's the case that you're talking about here, except it's not bank robbery, it's supporting foreign terrorist organizations. Likewise, if you're a bank robber and you use your voice to start recruiting, gunmen to go into the bank with you and they agree, and then you start heading towards the bank to do it, again, it's part of a criminal conspiracy that you recruited those folks to help rob a bank, even if you're not the one that drives them to the bank. You recruited them for the purpose of committing a crime. So you're not going to get off on free speech grounds in that case either. By the way, the Patriot Act is where the material support for terrorism statute comes from, I believe, and that was a bipartisan act. I looked it up, and I think it passed 98-1 in the U.S. Senate and 357 to 66 in the House of Representatives. Now, I don't support that act, but that was a bipartisan act, and so if you're gonna blame people, you need to blame authoritarians, not the left or the right. Authoritarians have went down this road. Anyway, you and I, and maybe even the Supreme Court, they haven't so far, but some case in the future, they might agree with you that the material support for terrorism statute can violate due process under a certain set of facts sometime in the future. And maybe even other rights protected by the U.S. Constitution. That's an open book right now. So the Congress has spoken about it. The president has spoken on it. Law enforcement has spoken on it. The courts have spoken on it in a couple of narrow cases. And I don't like the direction that went. I don't like it at all. But my solution isn't to lie about right-wingers or lie about left-wingers. My solution is try to convince left-wingers and right-wingers alike that, hey, this is a bad idea. I'm not going to try to use mistakes in the past to create more mistakes in the future. I'm going to try to correct mistakes. But for some reason, that doesn't enter your noggin. Look here, there was an injustice that happened in the past. So what we need to do to solve it is create injustices in the future. Congratulations, just pure genius. And I don't know if I've already said this, but to my knowledge, Alex Jones neither violated or conspired to violate any bipartisan act of Congress whatsoever, certainly no criminal laws. So congratulations on your conflating someone's right to speak out against an ideology that seeks to kill all of us infidels in America with the would-be killers themselves. Totally the same thing in your mind, I guess. No difference there. Whoa. Sadly, domestic terrorism, or Jones' dangerous speech in which he claims that he is in a holy war against Islam, is not prosecuted under that statute. Oh, I disagree totally. I think we probably should get rid of both statutes. But by holy war, did Alex Jones provide expert advice or drive a terrorist recruit to the airport? Did he give expert advice out on how terrorists could avoid being tracked by law enforcement and how they could funnel money to their organization illegally in contravention of U.S. law? And was he advocating for a violent jihad? I mean, a spiritual struggle, a purely spiritual struggle to improve himself against bad ideologies? Or was he actually advocating for violence? I'm not sure, because jihad doesn't mean violence, so I'm not sure if he's on a holy war, if that means violence or not. I get confused. I'm probably confused because I've been watching mainstream media and getting information from retards like yourself and Linda Sausauer. I'm sure that you'll absolutely 100% agree that if one side of the political spectrum is allowed this benefit of doubt, that the other side should be allowed the benefit of doubt as well. Correct? Yeah, I'm being facetious. I don't think you would agree with that at all. Now, I'm open to the possibility that he might have been actually thinking about committing violence against Muslims or Islamists. I'm open to the possibility that he might have been intentionally inciting violence against Islamists. But if he's trying to get his government to fight radical Islam, that's protected under free speech. I'm sorry. Anyway, I'd love you to point out where he's actually done these things that you claim, and point out where he's actually provided material support for a terrorist organization designated by the U.S. State Department. I'd love to see that. If we're going to compare apples to apples, let's do it. Let's see the proof. This is a failing that has permitted the proliferation of platforms such as InfoWars. Their presence on popular platforms, a legitimization of sorts for their content. Look, a social media company does not legitimize a person. They are legitimate by the fact that they exist. That's what makes someone legit, you ding-dong. And it's up to us to decide when we're in the public square. It's up to us to choose whether a speaker is worth listening to or not. We don't have to listen to a public speaker if we don't want to. We can simply walk away. This new decision is a step forward in recognizing that hate outlets such as InfoWars are complicit in domestic terror. Really? And a relief to Muslim Americans like myself who have been the target of online assaults and threats. Well, if these online interactions that you have qualify as a criminal assault or a criminal threat or criminal harassment, you should report those to the authorities. That's how you take care of that. What I think you need to know is that most Americans, including myself, will never, ever join you in asking that a speaker be removed from the public square. But most of us, I think, are willing to meet you halfway. I agree that you should not be forced to stand in a public square against your will. If you don't want to be in the public square listening to a speaker that you perceive as hateful, or if you just think that they're boring, I agree with you. You should have the freedom to walk away from that and not to have to listen to that. That's also a freedom. You see what I'm getting at here? The solution is not to deplatform the speaker. The solution is to separate you from the content you do not like. This is easily accomplished if this is out in the real world. You use your legs. And if you're not out in the real world, if you're online, you use your mouse and you just kind of click right away. Just let your fingers and the mouse do the walking. But I will even ask platforms to give you more tools to make it easier to filter out content that you personally don't like. What I don't want you to do is to filter out the content that I like. I don't want you controlling what I see. I want to see what I want to see. That is my right. As long as it's legal, I should have the right to see the content that I want to see in the public square. That very thing has worked for me as it applies to Alex Jones. I don't want to watch his videos, so what I've done to prevent myself from watching his videos is not click on them. It seemed to work for me. I'm not sure, why your brain is telling you not to listen to Alex Jones, but your finger there just keeps clicking on his videos. It's very strange indeed. Next up, John McWhorter. In our advanced conception of a nation, the idea that anyone should be able to air any thought they have, whether real insight or not, has a gut-level appeal. And it has a level-headed philosophical appeal as well. But let's go ahead and fight straw men, shall we? This is partly because of the air around the woods free, connotating the unshackled, and speech, which imbues communication with an air of deliberation and implied civic benefit. There are numerous benefits to allowing hateful speech. First, it serves as a pressure release. Second, as a country, we wouldn't have to be in a continuous political battle, except for you dunderheads, over what can and can't be said. If it's settled that everything can be said, then we don't have to go around on flagging campaigns on social media platforms or try to get people fired for having said something that we don't like every day. We could just walk away from the outrage. That would be a wonderful civic benefit. Third, even people that have hateful opinions have grievances that society needs to think about and maybe even address. And that's pretty hard to gauge or do if you keep deplatforming anyone and everyone that offers an opposing opinion that you deem hateful. And thinking about battles again, Fourthly, we don't have to have battles over who will be in the bureaucracy, placed in charge of all this censorship that you're calling for. And the fact of the matter is, I'm not willing to have you, Peter Strzok, or Lois Lerner calling these shots, okay? I don't trust this Zuckerberg or this gal at YouTube or the guy on Twitter. I don't trust you guys calling the shots, okay? So we could avoid that war as well just by having people walk away from content that they don't want to participate in or be a part of, and even given us better tools to manage that. And those are just the civic benefits that are just rolling off the top of my mind here, But I guess you learned journalist, you couldn't think of a single one while you were writing your article. Not one. But you sure had time to create a straw man. Oh my goodness. Even more appealing to those who understand that progressive thought sometimes requires suppressing one's visceral and even moral biases is the idea that people should even be able to air noxious views. Sorry, I don't speak word salad. For what it's worth, though, some of those words you're using, sir, I don't think they mean what you think they mean. Exhibit A is the belief by many that even a racist or sexist or otherwise acrid, disrespectful views should be allowed on college campuses in the name of free speech. Yeah, I kind of agree that's a stupid belief because it's not a belief, it's a fact. On campus, it's actually against the law to disallow speech. Even if you think it's hateful, it's against the law. I'm sorry that you don't know this, but because you're an authoritarian, I'm really not surprised. But these are the lines even reasonable people will not cross. Those of us used to separating the head from the heart. You're such an intellectual. May still differ on where that line is, but when Alex Jones accosts grieving parents who lost toddlers to a gunman in Sandy Hook by claiming that the whole thing was a hoax, most of us will allow that this kind of free speech that should be muzzled. This is even more urgent with modern technology. Incorrect. Most Americans are appalled by such speech. That's true. But Rasmussen did a poll just last year showing that 73% of Americans agree with Voltaire's statement. In case you've never heard it before, it goes a little bit like this. I disapprove of what you say, but will defend to the death your right to say it. 73% of Americans polled agreed with that. Now, 10% disagreed, so you're in the 10%, and 17% were undecided. And I guess that's the target audience for your article. Anyway, I don't know what you mean by most of us. I mean, do you mean Americans? Because 10% of Americans is not most Americans. I think some remedial math courses might be a good idea in your case. 100 years ago, an Alex Jones could have only reached most people via quiet printed pages written in formal prose. Today, online, a Jones can speak directly and passionately to everyone in the world. As if the pamphlets put out by Thomas Paine didn't help spark a revolution. What grandiose language you have, sir. Look, I'm on the internet too, with the theoretical ability to reach millions of people. But the truth is, only a handful of people are going to reach the numbers that Jones reaches. And the reason he's reaching those people is they like his content for some reason or another, or for various reasons. And society needs to know that, and society needs to think about that. It's pretty hard for people to be aware of what's going on if you exclude this gentleman from the public square and his followers from the public square. Pretty hard to figure out, for the general public, what's going on with these guys. Do they got a legitimate beef or not? Well, I guess you get to tell us that they don't have legitimate beefs. You or Zuckerberg or whoever the bureaucrat gets to be. In the Jones case, I know quite a few people that like to watch him just because he's goofy. Some people are into conspiracy theories. What do you think that Ancient Aliens channel is all about? What do you think about all the JFK theories is all about? People just like this stuff. I don't know why. I'm not into it particularly, but some do. God bless them. They like it. Some people like detective novels. God bless them. Some people like cyberpunk. God bless them. Well, what the heck is wrong with you? And some people, like myself, we just don't like authoritarians and globalists. And we have a perfect right not to like them. And we have a perfect right to make fun of them. If Jon Stewart gets to make fun of the right, we get to make fun of Jon Stewart and his ilk. Come on. The idea that Jones and InfoWars is one-dimensional, that's just laughable. And again, if you don't like his content, for whatever reason, do what I do. Don't click on his videos. And if you like his content, do what people that like his content do. Click on his videos. I know it's crazy, right? It's just, how could people be expected to use their own fingers? Unfortunately, a great many people do not separate their heads from their hearts. Everyone knows that socialists and authoritarians, even socialists and authoritarians, know that they prey on people's emotions. That's your side shtick. That's what you guys do. The people that fall for your propaganda, even you guys call them useful idiots. But God forbid if the grassroots choose to be emotional about preserving their own rights and freedoms, then I guess they're just a bunch of unuseful idiots. Come on. A great many on both sides of the political spectrum are susceptible, having their viscera stirred by the punch of angry, colloquial talking aimed at them. Assuming that's a sentence, yeah, that's true, I think. But I have to ask, are you advocating for Linda Sassauer to be shut down? How about somebody like Van Jones? Have you posted an article about Louis Farrakhan lately about how he should be shut down? I'm guessing not. The difference between you and I, sir, is I at least try not to be a hypocrite, as much as possible. You're not even trying. I will defend Sauer. I will defend Farrakhan. I will defend Van Jones' right to the public square. I will. I will mock them. I will shout at them. I will be angry about what they have to say, but I will not participate in having them deplatformed in any way from the public square. Why, you ask? Because, dear sir, I am emotional about my freedoms and the freedoms of American citizens. And indeed, I'm passionate about the freedom for every individual on this planet. But it starts at home. If we can gather our strength as people that believe in individual freedom, we can be that shining beacon of freedom, and we can help lift other nations into freedom as well. All individuals into freedom. We could be a force for good, but for people like you standing in the way. Oh my God, sir, you are just advocating for the worst possible outcome for humanity. And I don't know if you know it or don't know it, but you're just advocating for authoritarians to dictate what every individual human being is allowed to say and do. You're setting a system up for that. And you don't seem to realize it, or you want to be in charge. I don't know. But hey, you guys keep doing what you're doing, and pretty soon you're going to find the max percentage of voting Democrats is going to be capped at the 27% mark. Okay? That's going to be the most voters the Democrats can get if you keep going down this road of insanity. All right? And I'll help you with the math here. Out of 100% of the American people, 73% say they will defend to the death the right of people to take the public square. Therefore, the most support you're going to get for your proposition from the American people is 27%. So go ahead and align your party with that idea. Keep going. Jones cannot be shut down completely. However, narrowing access to him is as morally advanced as calling for a general commitment to free speech. No, sir. That's regressive. Going from having free speech to not having free speech, that's not an advancement in either liberty or morality. And that's why people call you folks regressives. You want to go backwards. I don't know why, but you do. Speech is one thing, yelling fire in an auditorium is another, and opinions that fall into the latter category challenge us with deciding where speech, sadly, must lose some of its freedom. Man, straw man arguments are so tedious and boring. No rational human considers yelling fire in a crowded auditorium to be the same as Alex Jones ripping off his shirt protesting against fluoride or gay frogs or whatever shenanigans he is about. Is Jones not a half of an actor? I don't know. I don't care. And it doesn't matter. All that matters is that just like the lunatic down here on the corner of Main Street with his sandwich board sign and his top off, and the sign says, "The end of the world is nigh," just like he and every other nutcase, including, sir, yourself, you should be able to take the public square and say what you want to say. If you violate, or if the guy with the sandwich board violates our laws, if Alex Jones violates our laws, like inciting violence, actual violence, or engages in defamation, then he should be prosecuted or sued in our actual legal courts, where we have a system that handles these kind of issues soberly with precedence and consistency so people know where the lines are. That's where we need to handle these things. Social media platforms, their administrators, just let the legal system handle these things. And if the legal system needs tweaking due to the digital age or the defamation laws aren't quite tight enough, and I would agree with that, by the way. President Trump would agree with you that defamation laws need to be tightened up. And to be honest, that isn't Trump's idea. That's a lot of people's idea, and Trump's just parroting it. I mean, people have been saying this for years. We need to tighten up defamation laws. But you know who's fighting against that kind of stuff? I'll let you guess. Did you guess the mainstream media? Maybe you should have guessed the mainstream media. But hey, overall, if you don't agree with me, you're free to say otherwise. You have said otherwise. And just go ahead and continue down your hostile attitude towards free speech and watch all this hatred for freedom blow up in your damn face. I'm telling you now, technology and the law is going to catch up with you and your ilk soon enough. And once again, you guys are going to be proven to be foolish. And once again, just like the 2016 election, you're going to lose.